Hey guys, I'm Sage Valentine, and I'm going to review episode 2 of season 7 of AMC's The Walking Dead. This episode is entitled The Well. This was the episode that we as fans needed to see after the carnage and violence of episode 1. Honestly, I'm going to label it the calm before the storm because on Sunday we are going to be introduced to the sanctuary, and there's very little hope in the sanctuary. Now, in the kingdom, it's all about positivity and hope and safety, and it looks like paradise. And here comes Ezekiel, who I've been waiting for forever to pop up on the screen. And now that he is here, I'm so happy. I think that Carrie Payton did a great job. I love his costume, his wig. Shiva, gorgeous. Just absolutely gorgeous. I honestly think that Shiva is my favorite character in the entire episode. Although there were other characters that are on that list, but Shiva's definitely number one, right above King Ezekiel. I do agree with what was said on The Talking Dead that Negan and Ezekiel are both putting on a show to survive in the world. I do see them as polar opposites because Ezekiel is all about hope and Negan is all about fear. But they both live by the same mantra that you have to work for what you're given. But I think from what I've seen in the episode, it seems like it's a lot easier to live in the kingdom than it is in the sanctuary, because I don't see King Ezekiel burning anybody's face if they upset him. That is, if they upset him. But you'll see what I'm talking about when you watch episode 3. I'm just warning you, it's gross. That iron thing is so gross. That's kind of sort of a spoiler, but not a really big spoiler, because I didn't tell you who it happens to and who we see get their face burned. Okay. The way that Ezekiel is introduced in the episode is epic. That one frame of him sitting down on his throne with Shiva next to him reminded me of the comics. Hell, the fact that quite a few lines from the comics were and are a part of the script just blew me away. But I do agree with Carol's feelings of skepticism in regards to the kingdom, and those feelings are definitely warranted and needed, because that whole situation could have been just another terminus, but Morgan definitely lucked up and got Carol to a place that is definitely going to help her along, because when we left her in season 6, she was not doing well, both physically and mentally, because it seemed like she was about ready to go. And there was a scene in the episode in the beginning, whereas there's a battle kind of between the Knights and Morgan and the Walkers, and Carol starts to hallucinate, whereas she's looking at the Walkers as they're getting stabbed and beaten, and she sees them as human. She sees quite a few of them, and I did think it was interesting when I watched The Talking Dead and I found out that the walkers that died in that particular scene were a part of a few sets of twins that they had cast, and they used one twin to be the walker and the other twin to be the human form of the walker. But in regards to Carol, in season 6, we were shown how the killing, or what she had to do, started to chip away at her, and she started to truly think about her actions. And as I said, she didn't want to live anymore. That's what it seemed like. But after watching this episode, it seems like she's healing, and that bonding moment that she had with Ezekiel was sweet. It seems like he truly cares for Carol, as does Morgan. But as for the elephant in the room regarding romance, Ezekiel seems to have kind of sort of romantic feelings for Carol, and she grows to kind of sort of like him. And somebody on Tumblr made a reference that the possum comment that she made was about Daryl. I mean, it could be. Either way, as long as Carol's happy, I'm happy. Now, when Ezekiel asked Morgan to train Ben after saving him, I really like their bonding scene. I just hope that nothing happens to Ben, but you know, the innocent people in The Walking Dead don't really last long, so he's a precious cinnamon roll, but I'm gonna try not to get too attached to that kid because I feel like he's not going to be around very long. It was nice to see Ezekiel and Morgan strolling along having a conversation. It just truly shows how calm and zen the kingdom is, and their conversation honestly was awesome. It was about the optimist, the pessimist, and the realist, and how all of that ended up relating to Ben, and how Ezekiel needed Morgan to train Ben to, I guess, get him into reality. And Ben definitely needed that help because he was nearly taken down by that walker. I'm not getting attached to that kid at all. And he seems like such a sweet kid. The whole situation with the Saviors. Kudos to Ezekiel for giving them and sending them that bad pork. It serves them right. Although I wonder, do they know or consider that people are doing this? Probably. Probably. But that fight between the Savior named Vincent, I had to watch the episode twice to find out the names. Vincent versus Richard the Knight. Vincent is an a-hole, and I feel like that whole situation is going to come back in some way, shape, or form, and not in a good way. And when the fight is finally broken up, Gavin says to Ezekiel that if the produce pickup is not up to par, then Richard is going to have to be the first one to die. And it gave me, that whole scene gave me flashbacks of Glenn's death in the comic books, just imagining like Gavin kneeling down and having his head bashed in by Negan. I think I'll be good by next week, so long as no one gets their heads bashed in. I'll be good. The mere mention of a pomegranate in this episode made me want one, and I was at the market and all they had were like pomegranate seeds, and I swear if I go back there again and they have a pomegranate, I am getting it. I usually drink the pomegranate juice, but I want the actual fruit. Now, after seeing it in this episode, just like in season 6 when Rick and Michonne shared that apple, I really wanted an apple. Next thing you know, they're going to add an orange or a banana or something like that. Maybe not a banana, but you get where I'm going with that. But that one fruit, the pomegranate, represented Carol in this episode, and basically Carol's journey throughout the series, because Carol started out sweet, meek, and mild, and as the seasons went on, she had to build up this armor around her, so she literally embodies a pomegranate, sweet on the inside but bitter on the outside, to protect herself because of the things that she had to do over the different seasons. She had to shut off her feelings and shut off her humanity, and now the armor is coming down and she's really starting to feel again. I love that scene where Ezekiel catches Carol before she leaves the kingdom, and the whole tagline of never BS a BSer. Carol basically peeps Ezekiel's whole card, saying that, you know, the kingdom is a joke, you are a joke, and you're basically selling everybody a fairy tale. And Ezekiel kind of lowers his guard and tells Carol, like, yeah, this is what I'm doing, but this is what the people need. And that brings me back to Negan on a side note, because Ezekiel brings hope, Negan brings fear. So what those people needed in that group was fear to follow Negan. These people in the kingdom need hope, positivity, safety, and this king-like superior who sells them this story to help them sleep at night, so to speak. But Negan rules by fear, and there is, I believe, a method to Negan's madness, just like there is obviously revealed to us in the episode a method to Ezekiel's madness. I do like how, as Ezekiel's talking to Carol, his voice goes from Shakespearean to just regular old Ezekiel. And most of that speech that he made to Carol comes straight from the comics. It's maybe not 100% from the comics, but I followed along with that one scene and picked out the different things that were in there. They did add words and they did omit a few words. And before I forget, Morgan had a conversation with Ben, and he told Ben that he has to find the way himself, and Morgan thought that he knew the way, but he doesn't. So it looks like the show is not making Morgan feel really bad for killing that savior to save Carol. Thank goodness, because that storyline that he had in the comic books was so sad, and his life came to an abrupt end, and it was really sad, and Michonne was involved in that. So I'm glad that Morgan has a more hopeful guys in the series, because to be honest, like, after losing Glenn and Abraham, losing Morgan the way that he died in the comics would be really, really devastating for Morgan fans. Ezekiel tells Carol how he saved Shiva, and because of that she wouldn't hurt him, and Shiva protected him, and he used what he learned acting in community theater to rule this place. But he's not like a dictator like Negan is. No one has to bow to Ezekiel, but you have to address him a certain way. But when you watch next week's episode, you're going to see that those people in the sanctuary, like, literally look at Negan like a king, whereas Ezekiel has that respect, not only because of the fact that he has Shiva the tiger, and people have created stories about how he got the tiger, like he says in the episode, but also because he is a just and fair person. Ezekiel asked Carol to keep his revelation about his persona as King Ezekiel between them, not only for the people's sake, but for his sake. And Carol's just like, whatever. She's like, I just want to leave. And Ezekiel is just like, you know what? I'm so sorry for what you've been through. We really don't want you to leave, but you can leave but not leave. And I'm just like, well, I wonder what he means. And then he sends her with an escort, who is Morgan, and I thought that was pretty cool. And she ends up staying in that house with the walker. She, of course, kills the walker before she lives in the house with Stowe. Morgan and Carol in the end of the episode make amends, and I thought that was so sweet and so cool. When Morgan put the tab down on the mailbox, I was trying to remember what that means, like what the symbolism of that is, because I literally just have a mailbox. At my house, I don't have one of those mailboxes with the flags that go up and down. So I googled what that means, the whole flag thing, and a flag up means that there's outgoing mail, and a flag down means that there's no outgoing mail, meaning, in my opinion, it seems like it's a way of telling people somebody is home. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but when it comes to Walking Dead, these little subtle things that they do, subtle looks, subtle moves, always end up meaning something somewhere down the road. So hopefully that means something positive and not something negative. And at the end of the episode, Ezekiel comes over with a brand new shirt on, holding a pomegranate with Shiva, and tells Carol, you really gotta try one of these. And I thought that episode was so sweet. And then when I was watching Talking Dead, I remember Carrie Payton saying something about when a guy puts on a new shirt and he comes to see a girl, he's trying, especially in the zombie apocalypse, he's trying to get laid. And I thought about it. I was like, you know, Rick put on a new shirt in season 6, episode 10. So I'm like, you never know. But Carol and Ezekiel are kind of cute together. But that's about it, guys. I will be reviewing episode 3, especially next week, because the sanctuary scenes are going to be interesting. On top of the fact that we do get to see Daryl, and Daryl is obviously being tortured and isolated and forced to deal with Negan's brand of crazy. And it seems like in the clip that they showed us on Talking Dead that Dwight is questioning a lot of what he's seeing. Kind of reminds me of a storyline in the comics. But that's as far as I'll go. So I love you guys. Take care. And I'll be back after episode 3. Bye, guys. Love you all. Bye.